All right, so look, the war, America's involved in the war, and propaganda is part of it. Okay, and we mentioned yesterday, right, the Committee on Public Information, 4 Minutemen, the anti-German films, and I gave you a little video snippet of what propaganda was doing, and you saw the German monster out there, and you see here pamphlets, or we're going to show you some pamphlets and posters, and we also talked about how culture, how they tried to rename things like Liberty Cabbage, which is bizarre in itself, or Liberty Sausage. Now, something else we want to mention here too. Not every American ended up being for the war, okay? There were some Americans who were radically critical of the war, okay? And the biggest complaint about America being involved in World War I was something called war profiteering, all right? So we know what war profiteering is? Literally profiting off conflict, okay? And they said, look, American businesses are making obscene amounts of money. They're profiting from the fact that they have a government contract. Like if Chloe has a factory that makes ammunition, she's literally making money off the fact that we're at war because you need more ammunition during war. Or Jackson over here, he has a company that's a clothing company, and they make not only the clothing for the Army, but boots for soldiers as well. And he's charging ridiculous prices, and we know the government's going to pay it because they need these. All right. And so ultimately, they're making money off this. Right. And some people suggested, hey, it's not worth it to get our guys killed just so some companies can make some cash. All right. Now, let's talk about this too. When America's getting in the war, when we enter the war in 1917, Russia leaves the war. Okay? Russia's going to leave the war. Right? Remember, the Allies mainly consisted of Russia, Great Britain, and France. Those are the three main countries fighting it. And Russia gets out of the war. And the primary reason they leave the war is that the situation in Russia has gotten really bad. There's a massive revolution taking place in Russia. And we'll spend, next chapter, we'll spend more time talking about that revolution and how that changes Russia. Okay? Now, who would be super happy that Russia's leaving the war? Not France. Germany. Germany's going to be super excited because now they're like, hey, that's one less problem we got to deal with. And we'll talk about how that's an issue at the moment or in a moment. Okay? The revolution, obviously, that's a big deal. Other nations joining the war, obviously, we mentioned the United States. We talked about the other day when we looked at maps. Other nations get involved. Remember, Italy joins the side of the Allies. So does Japan. All right. And it's like the Allies are kind of ganging up on the Central Powers, on Germany, Austria, Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. All right. Now, I want to show you this, and I think yesterday we looked at the speech of the 5 Minutemen, right? All right. And we saw this guy who, he's what happens when you're not necessarily loyal, right? Or at least when people don't think you're loyal, you get tarred and feathered, right? Now we want to look at some propaganda, and I looked at this with the third mod yesterday, so it might be a bit of a recap, but check this out. These all have meaning to them. This one right here saying, halt the Hun, okay? And the Hun was a derogatory name given to the Germans, like the Huns, you know, those Eastern Asians who were invading and conquering a lot of places. You remember Attila the Hun? Same thing. And you notice this too. Here's a German soldier. We know him by the Black Cross. And what type of helmet does he have? The pointy helmet, the spiked helmet. And you see that he's in front of a woman and a small child. And what's he going to do to them? Do you think it's something good? It's bad intentions, I can promise you that. But who's there to stop him? The American soldier. Now, notice too, how is the American standing? Very proud and very upright. And notice level matters. He is positioned above the German, meaning that he's significantly better. And also notice the German's got a rifle with a bayonet at the end, but what's the American soldier holding? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get out of your way there. Take down the shield for a second. What's the American soldier holding? Somebody help him out. It is a sword. Oh, it's definitely a sword. Why is he holding a sword when the German's holding a rifle? Why do they have the American holding a sword? It matters. What are swords? When did noble, proud people use swords to intervene on the behalf of a damsel in distress? Oh, yeah. Stories from what time period in history? What is it? Medieval times. Like, this is like a knight, a chivalrous knight. Okay. Oh, yes. All right. Join the Army Air Service. Be an American Eagle. What is America's national symbol? The bald eagle. And you see this bald eagle, once again, it is above this terrible, nasty German bird. And it's a recruiting poster. You want to be super excited. You want to be excited about being in the military, especially the Army Air Service. The Air Force wasn't invented until post World War II. Beat back the Hun with Liberty Bonds. The Hun, the German, and look at that German right there. He's got a bayonet, and what's on the end of it? Same thing that's on his fingers, man. Blood. All right. And look, he's over there in Europe, and now he's looking at us. Oh gosh, that's terrible. Keep these off the USA. God, who's standing in blood like that? I mean, that's like ankle deep blood. If you, by the way, is the United States going to get invaded by Germany? No, they're not coming across the Atlantic, but you have to make people afraid of that. So they'll give their money. Help crush the menace of the seas. Buy Liberty Bonds. Buy quickly and buy freely. What's the menace of the seas? The U-boats. I'm about to say he's coming out from under the water. He's got a bloody knife. And what do you see in the background there? Perhaps the Lusitania, or it's meant to evoke images of that. It's a ship. It's a defenseless little ship, and you have to help crush the menace of the seas. Oh, look at this one too. Remember Belgium. Belgium got invaded here, and you see a silhouette of a soldier, and once again, it's easy to recognize because what does it have on that soldier? The pointy hat, the spiked helmet. Who's he taking away there? It's a little girl, okay? And that's what are we trying to imply that Germans do to people? Not just assault, sexually assault, okay? And not just women either, but children. This is a little girl, okay? And you see flames in the background, and like, that's what's happening in Belgium. By the way, there were atrocities committed by soldiers, but do you think the average German soldier has any interest in assaulting people? No. All right? But you got to make people believe they're evil. Because remember, if you think they're evil, what is it easier to do? Kill them. All right? Who is this figure? Uncle Sam, a famous American figure, and he says, I need you in the Navy this minute. Look, he's appealing to your sense of pride. Our country will always be proudest of those who answered the first call. And the neat thing is that no matter where you stand, like you're looking in this, it looks like Uncle Sam is looking at you and pointing at you. And you're like, it's freaky. He's staring right at me. All right, we'll go away from Uncle Sam here. Okay? I love this one. Every Liberty Bond is a shot at a U-boat. Fire your shot today. Hey, you can get on the action. Maybe you're not serving in the war. Maybe you're a woman and you have to stay at home. And look, once those Germans see those shots firing at you, they'll know that you helped buy Liberty Bonds. And you see that helmet's flying off his head? That's meant to be the Kaiser, too. You can check out his mustache. You can fire a shot. You can get in on the action. Aw, isn't that cute? Look at this one. Gee, I wish I were a man. I'd join the Navy. And then look under there too. It says, be a man and do it. Uh, there's some interesting stuff with this right here. First of all, are women allowed in the military? No. But they're saying women, like they're saying, hey, women, if they could be, they would be in the military too. I wish I was a man. I'd join the Navy if I was a man. Okay, which probably not true. Women at the time had no interest in serving. But on top of that, they're implying that real men do what? They join the military. Something else here too. What do you notice about the way this woman's drawn? First of all, what's she wearing? A Navy outfit. Okay. Except, what do you notice down the middle there a little bit? cut a little lower. She's showing some skin. And now we don't think necessarily that's a big deal. But in 1917, is that a big deal? And what's that look on her face suggesting? Is that just, I want to be your friend look? Okay. She might be slightly interested more in just joining the Navy. Okay. All right. Check this out. Here's another version of Uncle Sam where he's the famous expression, I want you for the U.S. Army. Okay. Ah, gosh. Here's another one appealing, trying to use some sex appeal. I want you for the Navy. Do you think that's what she wants you for? Look, she's wearing a Navy jacket there, and she's got kind of this look on her face, and it is not the I want to be your friend look. Okay? She wants you all right. And by the way, does the military try to recruit people on the basis of, hey, women will be into you because they love a man in uniform? 100%. Marines, I guarantee that the dress blue uniforms will get people to sign up to be a Marine. Right? You can use that as a recruiting tool. Okay? Because apparently women do love a man in uniform. This is a good one as well. Destroy this mad brute. And who's that mad brute supposed to be? Germany, specifically supposed to be the Kaiser. He's got the pointy helmet, that's the Kaiser's. And he's got a little club in his hand there, too, this gorilla monster. What does that club say? Close. Culture. All right. And they're saying that the Germans like to think of themselves as a very cultured people, but the only culture they know is violence, hitting people with a stick. And who's he got in his arm there? Oh, not just a woman. Who's the woman that embodies American ideals? There's a big statue of her. Lady Liberty. And look, if you look closely enough, what do you see about Lady Liberty there? Oh, she's distressed, all right. She's half naked. Her chest is exposed. Right? What's that mad brute trying to do to Lady Liberty? I don't know, but it's not good. And he probably didn't have her consent. And notice too, and it's hard to see, but you notice that mad brute is standing on a beach. And can you see what it says? It says the beach's name is? It's America. It's hard to see on there, but it's America. He's coming over here and he's going to defile Lady Liberty. That's not good. All right? Oh, man. This one's a little more plain, but it appeals to a sense of history. Who's the figure on this little poster? Abe Lincoln. And it's got a quote from a speech of his that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from this earth. What speech is that from? Anybody know? Gettysburg Address, man. Gettysburg Address. Hey, if you want that government of the people, by the people, and for the people to keep going, you had best buy some Liberty bonds. Right? This one's a little more plain. Woodrow Wilson here. I summon you to the comradeship. He's like, oh, be a part of the Red Cross. Personally, I don't find that very appealing, but it is Woodrow Wilson, so we'll cut him a little bit of slack. Now, we're not the only ones using propaganda, okay? The Germans and other countries are using propaganda as well. This is a recruitment poster for the German Air Force, and it's got a sleek-looking black bird on there. And if you wouldn't know any better, what do you think that round thing is that that bird's sitting on? It's like a target, a bullseye. But that's actually not. It's the symbol for the French Air Force, and the British doesn't look too dissimilar. But you notice that it's cracked, and what has it got in it? Bullet holes, man. Okay, saying, hey, be part of the German Air Force. You could be this cool-looking black bird, and you could shoot French pilots out of the sky. All right. Now, the next one, it's got a lot of German words on it, but you don't need to be a German scholar to understand what it's trying to say. The German soldiers are all marching by, some of them on foot, some of them on their horses. And who is on their side? Jesus is. Okay? And do you think that all sides try to use religion to their aspect of things? Absolutely. They're all Christian nations and they all think Jesus is on their side. Okay? Maybe they should have paid a little closer attention to the Bible, but they definitely play that. Another fun thing, too, the military, even today, they don't push religion on their soldiers, but they strongly encourage them. I had a friend who said, and granted, he was going to basic training in the late 90s, but he said, you didn't have to go to chapel, like they have a chaplain and church services there. And he said, they didn't make you go, but if you didn't go, you had to clean around the barracks. So everybody went to church. It's like, because nobody wanted to clean the barracks. All right. France is using these as well. Check this out. This one is actually a movie poster, and they made a movie in France about the French who held the line and didn't let the Germans pass the Marne River. And in the background, you see it says in French, "They shall not pass." It was terminology after a French general who said, "We're not going to let them pass here." And you see this French soldier all decked out, and he's got a rifle, like, "Bring it on, buddy." He's standing in no man's land between the trenches. This one's a magazine cover of the Kaiser, making fun of the Kaiser. And what do they make him look like here? Maybe like a frog. I think he looks like a vampire, and a poor vampire at that. But man, we love ourselves some propaganda. Okay, Great Britain, same way, man. The hun and the home. Our country, England here, our homes and wives are secure, mothers and wives are safe, children play and fear no harm. In Belgium, though, their homes are destroyed, their women are murdered and worse, and their children are dead and slaves. Again, they're overplaying it on purpose. This one might be the best one, though. Daddy, what did you do in the Great War? And you see a grown man there sitting in a chair, and his daughter is sitting on his lap. And what's she got there? What's she reading? What kind of book? Why would she ask that question? It's probably a textbook talking about the Great War. And she's saying, look, Daddy, what did you do? And notice that little boy sitting there. What's he playing with on the floor? Toy soldiers. All right. And every kid, every little boy, when they grow up, wanted to play war and wanted to be in the army and stuff like that. Or at least a lot of kids are. And you don't want to have to be that parent who, when asked by their kids, what did you do during the Great War? You don't want to have to say, yeah, I stayed at home. You want to have some pride. You want to be able to tell your kids, I served. Ooh. Propaganda everywhere. All right, now let's talk about how the war is going to start to wind up. America's involved in the war, Russia's out, and here's what's going on in 1917 and 1918. Okay? One of the things that we said was going well, that Germany is having a really good measure of success on the Eastern Front. Okay? Germany's having a lot of success here on the Eastern Front. Over here, where the fight was going on in Eastern Europe, Germany had pushed way into Russia, and they're having a lot of success. And remember, Russia said, we're out of the war. Okay? So Germany has effectively won this side of the war. Okay? They basically, forced the Russians to get out. All right? Now, that's important because now where can Germany take all these soldiers and military equipment and direct it towards? Over towards Paris and the Western Front. Okay? Now, they're in a race to get everybody over there because who do they know is on the way to help Great Britain and France? America. Okay? So really now it's a race to see who can get over here to the Western Front first. Can Germany get all of its forces over here, or will America get over there and help bolster the French and the British and help make sure that they can hold off the area? All right? Now, the biggest advantage that America provides, I know Americans, we love to think that we're tougher than everybody else and that we can just kill anybody and blow anything up. But that's not our biggest advantage. Our biggest advantage, America has resources to offer. We have fresh men who haven't been affected by war, and we have a lot of resources, food, weapons, and other military supplies. That's what's going to make the difference in the war. Not because we're necessarily tougher than anybody else or we're the best fighters. We can provide adequate resources where we can overwhelm them. America, remember, over there across the Atlantic, we never had to worry about our country getting attacked or getting harmed. So we got factories going, farms producing food. We have more than enough stuff, and we can supply our allies and our military over here in the Western Front. All right? Now, Germany, on the other hand, they're kind of depleted. Russia's in the middle of a revolution, and they didn't have a whole lot in the first place. So Germany and the Central Powers here, they have a problem. They don't have the amount of resources that America can produce and send over here to our military and our allies, right? And that's really what's going to push the war into the allies' favor, right? They simply have more supplies and more resources, okay? It's not necessarily that we're tougher than everybody else, even though we like to think that, right? Now, the American president at the time, Woodrow Wilson starts to realize pretty quickly that America's help with our resources and everything is it's going to put the Allies over the top. He knows that ultimately this war, he said, with our help, the Allies are going to win the war, right? So he sees the end coming and he says, hey, I don't want to punish the Germans. I want to come up with a fair peace plan for everybody, right? And so Woodrow Wilson comes up with something called the 14 points for peace. And Woodrow Wilson goes, look, if we do these 14 things, then we'll be able to have a peaceful solution to our problems and we can avoid another major war like this. Okay? And it's important to know the 14 points, he wants to treat Germany fairly. He doesn't want to punish them and he doesn't see them as the villain. Okay? And Wilson, by the way, he saw himself as kind of a do-gooder. He was a strong Presbyterian. His dad had been a Presbyterian minister. And Woodrow Wilson literally thought that, he could do it. He could make everybody have a peaceful solution to this problem. All right? Now, it's 14 points. Two of the points, and I'll show you all of them later on. We'll look at them in detail on Monday. But two of the points are worth mentioning right now. One of them is Woodrow Wilson said, look, peace is a lot easier if every group of people, every racial group, and every nation had something called self-determination. Right? Self-determination. That's the ability of a group of people to pick who rules over them. Okay? He said every group of people should have self-determination, the ability to pick their own rulers. He said, hey, Austrians should be ruled, they get to pick who rules their country. Russia should be ruled, by whoever the people there choose. He goes, we've got that here in America. We pick our rulers here. He goes, I was elected by the people. All right? Self-determination. Now, it's kind of weird for Woodrow Wilson and Europeans to start talking about self-determination. Why is it strange for them to talk about that concept, that a group of people should get to pick who rules over them? All right, number one, a lot of those countries are monarchies, and number two, there's another reason. What were all those European countries doing prior to the war? What were they doing to some other countries? What is it? Exploiting them. Did African nations get self-determination? No. Did India? No. All right. The British, especially, were notorious for not providing people self-determination. Okay. Now, the other of the 14 points we'll mention today is that Woodrow Wilson said, look, of all the 14 points, this one's going to be the most important. He said, hey, we need a League of Nations, okay? An international peacekeeping group. And he called it a League of Nations. And he said, look, if we have an international peacekeeping group, maybe we can talk out our problems instead of blowing each other up. Imagine that. A League of Nations. All right. Now, a lot of the other of the 14 points had to do with land and exchanging, like putting land in the right place, making sure that all Italians are ruled by Italy, etc. But we'll pick up with that on Monday, and we'll finish up this chapter Monday and Tuesday.